Hi folks, Brian here, Geomagnetic Earth Watch. Thursday, August 5, 2023. I want to talk a little bit about food security, but I want to change the background. I want to do it in my greenhouse, but first I was going to take you a little bit of a tour of my yard to show you what I'm doing. Maybe you might learn something. So I call this my tunnel. This is my backyard on the edge of my property. Basically, it's an enclosure in polycarbonate panels. Whereby I can add on at least an extra 3 months of growing. Because it's a small area space, it takes very little passive solar heating. That is the heat from the sun coming through my polycarbonate panels, and keeps everything toasty warm into the beginning of the wintertime. Now, I've already harvested all my summer vegetables. These are just some carrots that prefer the cooler temperature. So again, this is a 63-foot long tunnel. Now, polycarbonate protects the vegetables from the harmful ultraviolet solar radiation and prevents evaporation of moisture from the soils. This is my first little greenhouse I built 6 years ago. This actually started off as an 8x8 raised bed, but I decided to put a top on it. So again, I use this in the wintertime as well. I got some spinach planted, so maintaining your soil health is very important. So you always do your fall and your winter cover crops. Spinach will add nutrients back into the soil. That was my last year's project. I finished my greenhouse. I have a slope on the side of my property, so I just made use of the dead space. Use your imagination. Before we get into there, take it to the front of my property. So on the front of my property, I built 6 raised bed with polycarbonate tops. And actually behind that blue siding, I have 3 inches of rigid foam board insulation, which keeps the soil from freezing in the wintertime. It's gotten down to minus 32 degrees Celsius, and it keeps the soil comfortably warm. So again, I can continue to grow into the wintertime. And once again, polycarbonate panels. To protect the plants from the harmful ultraviolet radiation now coming in. So I completed this greenhouse last year. Again, on the side of my property is a slope, it's wasted space. I don't like wasting space, so it's also my winter man cave. I had to bring in my strawberries because they're still flourishing quite a bit. A lot of people use rain gutters inside their greenhouses for any shallow root vegetables like bush beans. These are only about a week old, doing quite well. There's a lot of vegetables that do not like the heat. They do very well in the wintertime. Bush beans is one of them. Radish is another. A little bit overcrowded here. I'm just getting myself organized. Some Indonesian chili pepper plants. So anyway, let's get into it. Sorry it's not as professional as I don't know, that Dan guy from allegedly he masters walking, talking videos. Economic ninja on his bicycle. I'll practice, okay? I'll see if I can get a banana seat bicycle and be as good as him. As cool as him. Let's get down to today's talk. Food security. Clearly, the United Nations and the elite want to reduce our population down to only 500 million. And there's reasons why they want to do it. Because they, just like the government, they are aware of the system inbound coming in. And they will not be able to control the population. Nope. Okay, a little bit better. There's more than enough acreage on this planet to grow enough food for 10 times the current population. It's not the problem. There's two main issues that's going to affect our ability to grow food, which is going to worsen starting more next year than this year. So aside from the planned destruction of our food production systems, the explosions, the fires, the manufactured pig flu and bird flu, and well, we got to kill all the chickens and the pigs and all that. Don't you find the food recalls kind of suspicious? Contaminated this, contaminated that. Don't you think that's all part of the plan? There's two other reasons. Now, before I get into that, those of you who are old enough, anywhere from the 1940s to the 1970s, remember the Victory Gardens? In our backyard, so many people were growing food for their families. Large, long rows of vegetables in your backyard. Of course, you can't do that now because your backyard is a 8-foot square patch of concrete. That's all you get. Me, I have only a 1/4 acre lot. Yet I found ways and means to utilize about 1,000 square feet by raised beds, greenhouses. If I'm growing something in a pot, that's 1 square foot. I count that as a square footage. Rain gutters, I'll add that up. So I got about 1,000 square feet of growing space, and that's nowhere near enough to be completely self-sufficient all year round. It helps a lot. There's two things that's going to impact our ability to grow enough food. First, the increased levels of ultraviolet C radiation coming in through our depleted ozone layer. Our ozone layer, of course, is being depleted from the increased levels of cosmic radiation coming in. UVC not only alters human DNA, it alters the DNA of plants. It reduces the numbers, quantity, quality of the vegetables, including root vegetables, potatoes. It also burns our vegetables. Increased ultraviolet radiation coming in. Next, when the United Nations tells you we have reached a boiling point, and when they tell you we are going to lose 1/2 of the world's lakes, waters, they're not BSing you, they're telling you the truth. And again, they just can't tell you the reasons why. Evaporation from that ultraviolet radiation I was speaking to you about, and, as I suspect, depletion of our resources found underneath our feet, depletion of our oil, natural gases, and waters from the rising heat from the outer core expansion coming up through those mantle plumes, the lithospheric melting, the thinning of our crust, and the loss of those resources there within. Those two things, more than anything else, is going to affect our ability to grow enough food for everybody. And before we become wise as a population, it is best for them to depopulate the planet down to that 500 million level they want. And those 500 million, you're going to be eating bugs. So what are we going to do about it? Let's talk about storing food. For a couple of reasons, every single family should have at least 1 year's worth of stored food, not just food, but water, not just water, all your toiletries, all your oral care, lighting, propane for heating, generators, cooking. You have no idea how much space that takes, especially your water. And I'm not even talking about watering your plants, your vegetables. You need to start last year on building up that 1 year supply or more before more and more of your shelves at Walmart and Aldi and up here in Canada superstores become more bare and more expensive. You need to go beyond the 5-gallon buckets of rice and beans. Yes, because they do store a long time, 25 years if you do it properly, but you need something to mix in with it. You need more than just calories. You need nutrition. You need your vegetables, whether you're growing your own or you have stored cans. And learn how to grow microgreens. Your stash of food is not to be touched, except for 2 conditions. That stash of food is only for a transition time from you breaking out of the system to the point where you become totally self-sufficient, totally independent from the man, the system, the beast system. And 2, it is only to be dipped into in the event of disasters, emergencies, earthquakes, asteroid impacts, lockdowns. You stock up what you're going to enjoy and you start eating it now, and every time you pull a can off, you go out and buy the next one when you next head to Walmart. And again, it's a lot more than just food and water. You have to think about all your oral care. A lot of these things will store for years, and so far they're cheap. Get lots now. Your soaps. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about food security. And I can tell you, it's not easy growing food. You need a lot of knowledge. You need a lot of practical skills. You need a lot of time. A lot of time. You need to know what you're doing. I've seen so many people throw a handful of seeds in the ground, and 3 months later they go to pull their carrots, there's nothing left. Carrots like that small. The greens, well, maybe that big, the carrot's about that small because they didn't do it right. It's not easy, folks. It takes 3 months for most vegetables, not all, to reach maturation. Some are longer. Celery, you like celery? It takes 4.5 months. Spinach, radish, a lot sooner. The rest, average, 3 months. Well, I can grow potatoes in the pot. Sure you can. You need enough sunlight or artificial lighting. It takes 3 months for those potatoes to mature in that 5-gallon bucket. A family of 2 or 3 will eat all those potatoes in 1 day. You're growing that 1 bucket of potatoes for 3 months. It's going to be gone in 1 day. Work out the math and how much soil you're going to need, water, enough lighting, and so on. So then the question arises, and this is something I haven't seen any other YouTuber. There's a lot of good ones. I like listening to Goshen Prepping and others. But what are you going to do after a year or 2? Unfortunately, if the Deagle organization report is correct, it doesn't matter, because 2/3 of the world's population, and maybe even a lot more, are going to be not here anymore. Your food preparation and your stash is only a transition time until you have mastered this and that. Yes, do stock up on the things that last a long time, the rice, the beans. You need a lot more than just calories. Oh, I think that's about it. Now, I understand not everybody can do what I do, but you know what? I'm on a very, very meager disability pension. Those blue boxes in the front of my property, it took me 2 years to do them all, because I can only do a little bit at a time. But you want to extend your grow time. You want to cover everything you can in these polycarbonate panels to protect your vegetables from the harsh ultraviolet radiation coming in, and to extend your growing time. Anyway, folks, that's it for now.